This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Get 2 months of free access to thousands of courses by visiting the link in the description. When you take a Google Earth tour around Latin America, you notice something strangely familiar about many of the cities. Their centers are organized around a central plaza. There's usually a large Catholic church on the plaza or somewhere nearby, and the entire Old Town area is designed with a rectilinear grid. One textbook example of this is Bogota, Colombia, founded by a Spanish conquistador in 1538. The historic center of the city is the Plaza de Bolivar. There's a cathedral along one edge of the plaza, and the other edges host important government buildings, including Colombia's National Capitol building, located here. The city's old streets fan out in right angles from the plaza. This pattern plays out all over the region. Santiago, Chile was also founded by a Spanish conquistador. Same plaza, same cathedral, same gridded streets. This same pattern is true for cities all over the Americas. Over and over again, the Spanish chose to build their colonial cities in the exact same way. In this video, we're going to learn more about the laws of the Indies, the Spanish rules for planning new cities. These laws govern the design of hundreds of new cities across a hemisphere, something that has never happened before or since in world history. Before any of those Spanish cities existed, there were cities designed and built by indigenous people of the Americas. Millions of native people lived in what are now the former Spanish colonies. But when Spain and other nations began making contact, they brought with them diseases and a mission of extracting as much gold and silver from the continents as possible. Those diseases and wars of conquest decimated the native population. At the same time, Spanish settlers were streaming into the hemisphere. Between 1 and 2 million Spanish settlers immigrated during the colonization period. You had a situation where the native population was greatly reduced, and you had many new residents. This situation called for the planning of new cities. Now, disease and wars did not kill every native person in the Americas. Spain's relationship with the remaining people is complicated. They were often viewed as useful for finding gold and silver, and for people to convert to Catholicism. In the Laws of the Indies, a planning document, there are many ordinances about how to approach indigenous people and convert them. Generally speaking, the ordinances suggested being kind and generous. They recommended choosing city sites in places that wouldn't upset them. But there were also ordinances about how to punish and pacify native people. The Americas were colonies under the rule of a foreign empire, and that empire used planning to achieve its goals of gold, God, and glory. Just something to keep in mind when I discuss the planning and urban design ordinances in the Laws of the Indies. There may be some good ideas in there, but they weren't applied justly. Okay, so we know why Spain wanted new cities, but why did they need laws to govern their siting, design, and construction? Why not go the way of the English colonists, who kind of let their settlers design cities however they liked, with the word design being used loosely? The reason the Spanish developed these laws was for efficiency and standardization. When you're an empire trying to colonize 2 continents at the same time, you want a clear blueprint to give your conquistador city founders. Back in the early 16th century, King Ferdinand used to give vague recommendations to conquistadors for each journey on how to site and design cities. But when it became clear that hundreds of cities, port cities, mining colonies, ranch communities would be needed, it made sense to write down a set of standard laws. Now, with that preamble out of the way, let's talk contents. What did the laws say? How did Spain want those cities to be designed? Well, the first step to city design is choosing a site. Several ordinances required would-be city founders to ensure that they have indeed found a new place that nobody else had claimed, and a place where the native people had been pacified. Once a general area was identified, a conquistador needed to choose a specific site. According to the Laws of the Indies, that meant fertile soil and land for grazing, nearby native people for converting, be defensible in case native people aren't interested in being converted, or the pacification didn't stick. Good access to the sea or rivers, but far from pirates. Not too high in elevation or too low. Spain felt that there was a Goldilocks zone where the air wasn't too windy or stagnant. Finally, we get to the urban design. The starting point for the town was the plaza, located at the center. Or if the city was located along the coast, the plaza should be near the waterfront. It should be either a square or rectangle, but rectangle was considered better so it could host horse riding fiestas. Streets should then radiate out from the plaza, 2 in each corner and 1 from each side. The plaza should be oriented so the prevailing winds didn't sweep down a street and into the plaza. The church or cathedral, as well as the customs house, arsenal, town hall, and hospital, should be built around the plaza, and they should all be connected by porticos which form the edge of the plaza. Any remaining lot should be designated for shops and merchant businesses. Land uses that produce filth, like slaughterhouses, tanneries, and fisheries, should be located outside of town, in a place where the wind blows the stench away from where people live. The rest of the blocks in the city are designed for houses. There is an ordinance that states that the city should try as much as possible to have buildings of all one type for the sake of the beauty of the town. Just outside the city blocks, there's a commons for recreation and cattle grazing. It's also a great place held in reserve for future urban expansion. Beyond the commons are assigned pasture and farmlands. And there you have it. If conquistadors followed all of the steps in the laws of the Indies, not only would the Spanish crown be happy, but the settlement stood a good chance of becoming a successful city, like Buenos Aires, Lima, Mexico City, and Los Angeles. And a lot of the ordinances and the laws of the Indies are considered pretty good urban design, even by today's standards. Placing a public place like a plaza at the center is still a great idea. Considering the climate and wind is also important and sometimes overlooked. And the land use ideas, like separating noxious uses, are the same ideas that led to modern zoning practices. Spain had a vested interest in making cities that attracted settlers and made cities permanent and successful. Their laws of the Indies largely accomplished that goal, and the results have lasted longer than the Spanish Empire itself. Last year I did a survey of City Beautiful viewers, and I found out that most of you don't think of yourselves as future city planners or someone who would join a city council or anything like that. In fact, you are more likely to describe yourself as a lifelong learner. That's why I've always been so happy to partner with Skillshare and why I'd recommend their service, because it's perfect for lifelong learners. My favorite Skillshare feature is its variety. You have classes on everything from the basics of photography, even iPhone photography, to general productivity. I really like this productivity series by YouTuber Thomas Frank. And if the stress of the world has got you down recently and you need an escape, check out this Watercolor in the Woods series. You can learn how to do beautiful paintings of foliage in a rural setting, or just sit on your couch and watch someone else do it. Either way, you'll be transported, and I think we could all use a little of that right now. I know I could. The great thing about Skillshare is they have classes for people of all skills and abilities, and their classes are broken up into manageable pieces, so you always have time for a lesson. For a limited time, use the link in the description to get a free trial of a Skillshare Premium membership. And if you decide to stick with it, Skillshare is less than $10 per month with an annual subscription. So go to skl.sh/citybeautiful09201 and give it a try for free.